First story. I cheated and remarried my new wife. But my entitled son refuses to respect his stepmom. Now he betrayed her by decorating his room with his mom's furniture, excluding my new wife. So I grounded my son, trashed his room, and splashed his entire room with paint, and demanded he respect my wife. Now he has left my house, and I'm regretting it. I 47M have 2 sons from a previous marriage. The older one is 16. The younger, Cameron, is 15. 6 years ago, I remarried. While my older son adjusted pretty well to the changes, and actually grew close with my wife, Cameron pushed back from the very beginning. When the divorce first happened, Cameron was around 9. He was always more emotionally attached to his mom. That's not unusual, but he also made it painfully clear that he blamed me for the divorce, even though he never knew the full story. After the custody agreement changed when he turned 13, Cameron began splitting time between homes. Half the month with his mom, half with us. It was hard. Every time he came to our house, it felt like we were walking on eggshells. He was cold to my wife, borderline rude sometimes, and always counting the days until he could go back to his mom's. We tried everything. Family dinners, board games, outings. My wife never overstepped. She never tried to replace his mom. She was patient and tried to bond with him through shared interests. He ignored her. And I mean actively ignored her. There were times she'd ask how his day was, and he'd literally walk away mid-sentence. I had to pull him aside more than once to remind him she was an adult in the house and deserved basic respect. Anyway, we moved to a new house last year, and my older son really got involved in setting up his new room. He and my wife spent a few weekends painting it, shopping for furniture, and choosing LED lights and wall shelves. They made a full project out of it. He felt ownership over it, and it was a bonding thing for them. Cameron wasn't ready for that at the time, and we didn't force him. My wife still kept trying, showing him color palettes, offering to take him to IKEA and Best Buy, and letting him choose everything from top to bottom. She even said she'd let him take the lead and just be there to assist if he wanted. He gave the usual, "I'll think about it," which is code for no. Still, she didn't push. She left catalogs on the counter, suggested paint samples, and even picked up a few free swatches just in case. I could tell she hoped he'd change his mind eventually. Then, out of nowhere, this past weekend Cameron comes back from his mom's house with a full pod container parked in our driveway. I walk out, and I see him opening it with a key, and inside is an entire room's worth of furniture: bed frame, desk, floating shelves, beanbag chair, even wall art. I asked him what was going on, and he casually said, "Oh, Mom and I went shopping. She helped me pick everything out. She's coming by in an hour or so to help me build it." I'm standing there, stunned. Not because he bought his own stuff, fine. If his mom wants to buy him things, whatever. But because there was no heads up, no, "Hey, is it okay to bring in a full room's worth of stuff?" No conversation. And more importantly, after everything my wife had tried to do to connect with him on this, he deliberately cut her out. I told him it would have been a decent thing to at least include her, maybe let her help, or at least be in the room. He shrugged and said, "I just want to do it with Mom. It's our thing." I let him be for a bit, then texted my wife to let her know what was happening. I'll never forget her face when she came home. She was smiling at first, probably thinking he had changed his mind and decided to let her help. But when I told her what happened, how he brought everything on his own and was doing it with his mom, her face dropped. She didn't say anything at first, just kind of nodded and walked upstairs. She still tried. She knocked on his door and asked if he needed any help. From what she told me later, Cameron barely looked at her and said, "No thanks, I've got this." Then he closed the door in her face. When she knocked again, he said, "I'm good. Please don't come in." And then he locked the door. Let me be clear, she wasn't being pushy. She just wanted to be part of it in some small way. And he rejected her. Hard. I saw how crushed she was. And honestly, that's when I snapped. This wasn't just about a bedroom. This was 6 years of passive-aggressive behavior. 6 years of shutting her out, of disrespecting the household, of pushing boundaries in subtle ways. And the final straw was seeing her standing in the hallway, holding a small toolkit, just trying to be helpful, and getting the door locked in her face like she was some stranger. So yeah, I lost it. After she went back downstairs, I went to the garage, grabbed a can of paint. I didn't have a big plan in mind. I just knew I wasn't going to let this stand. I waited until I heard his mom leave. She must have stayed for a couple of hours helping him. Then, when the coast was clear, I went up to his room. I knocked once. He didn't answer. I opened the door anyway. He was sitting on his bed, setting up his gaming monitor. I walked in holding the can of paint and just said, "We need to talk." He looked up, annoyed, and said, "What now?" That was all it took. I opened the can and splashed it right across his desk, over the top of the monitor, across the freshly painted blue wall, and onto the new rug. He screamed and jumped up, but I wasn't done. I grabbed the desk and flipped it on its side. Paint was running down the wall. I took down the shelves he had mounted and threw them in the hall. Pulled the curtain rod off the brackets. Popped the LED strips off the ceiling. Unplugged everything. I made sure the message was clear. This wasn't his private playhouse. This was our home, and it comes with expectations. Cameron stood there in shock. His first words were, "What the hell is wrong with you? That's my stuff." I told him flat out, "You don't get to treat people like garbage in this house, and then sit in your custom little kingdom like nothing happened. You excluded your stepmom intentionally, after everything she's tried to do for you. That's not how this works." He yelled back that he didn't want her help, that it was his room, and that I had no right to do what I did. I said, "I already did. What's your next move?" He didn't answer. Then I grounded him. No electronics. No going out. No hanging out with friends. Chores every day. And he's damn lucky I didn't toss the whole pot off the driveway. He stormed out, called his mom, and within 2 hours, he was gone. He left early and said, "See you next rotation," like he was a tenant breaking a lease. Since then, it's been non-stop backlash. My ex blew up my phone that night. Said I crossed every line. Said I humiliated our son and acted like a control freak. Threatened court. Said she'd revisit the custody agreement. Said I proved I can't handle Cameron's independence. I told her flat out I won't apologize for enforcing boundaries under my roof. I won't be manipulated into thinking this was just a kid wanting to spend time with his mom. That's not what this was. Cameron had every chance to include my wife. He chose not just to exclude her, he disrespected her. Made it a point to lock her out. After years of shutting her down, this was intentional. He wanted her to feel unwanted. He succeeded. My wife, for her part, has gone quiet. She's not mad at me in the yelling way, she's just shut down. Said she feels like she's back to square one after 6 years of effort. She spent days helping raise a kid who wouldn't even acknowledge her as human. And now, after trying to do the right thing, she feels like she's being blamed for the outcome. Like she's the reason I reacted the way I did. I told her the truth. I destroyed that room because I saw her get destroyed first. Our home isn't a hotel. It isn't a one-way street where Cameron comes to recharge, ignore everyone, disrespect people, and then go back to his mom's house for applause. I've already had family reach out. My sister said I probably should have stopped at grounding. My cousin who doesn't even have kids said I'm creating trauma. One guy from work, who knows the situation too well, said, "Good. It's about time he learned you don't get to spit on people and still expect your custom throne." That's the only comment that made sense to me. Cameron has texted once since leaving. A single line. "I want all my stuff moved to Mom's." Didn't ask. Didn't say please. Just a demand. I haven't responded. I won't. If he wants to act like a tenant, he can come pack his room himself. I won't lift a finger until I see some accountability. His older brother hasn't said much, but I can tell he's rattled. He liked the peace. The balance. The fact that everyone was trying to make it work. Now it feels like a war zone again. I told him this isn't about choosing sides. It's about basic respect. He nodded but didn't engage. Smart kid keeps his head down. Some people are saying I broke trust. That I should have talked first, reasoned, and been the adult. They're missing the part where I did talk. I did try. For years. Cameron didn't want compromise. He wanted to make a point that his mom was enough, and that my wife meant nothing. I'm not naive. I know he's telling people I destroyed his room. Sure, fine, I did. I poured paint on the furniture. Took the whole thing apart. Scrubbed out his vision. Because I'm not letting a 15-year-old dictate the rules of my house. If he wanted a room designed just with his mom, then let it live in her house. But not under my roof, built on exclusion and attitude. He'll come back eventually. Maybe not this week. Maybe not next. But when he does, the door's still open under conditions. He won't walk back in like nothing happened. He won't get new furniture without input from this house. He won't decorate behind closed doors and lock people out. And he won't use guilt or silence to manipulate me. He's 15. He knows what he's doing. He's not a helpless child figuring out feelings. He's a teenager with a chip on his shoulder, and I won't indulge it anymore. If that costs me time with him, fine. But I won't roll over and let my wife be a doormat in her own home. I won't let disrespect slide just because he's going through something. We're all going through something. Doesn't give him a free pass to act like this. I'm not asking how to fix things. I'm not planning an apology tour. I know exactly why I did what I did. I don't regret the paint. I don't regret flipping the desk. I don't regret grounding him. The only thing I regret is not drawing this line sooner. So, Reddit, aita. Comments. Comment 1. You know what this really sounds like? Resentment buildup from a guy who's still pissed that his son picked his mom. This wasn't about the furniture, or the paint, or even the stepmom. This was about power. You couldn't force Cameron to like your wife, so you punished him the moment he expressed loyalty to his mom. Your language gives it away, tenant. Under my roof. Control. You don't want a son. You want compliance. You say your wife was crushed, and I believe that. And Cameron wasn't kind about it. But you also say he's been cold since the divorce. So let me ask, what have you done to make this easier on him? Outside of trying to plug him into a new, happy family mold. You wrecked his space. The one place he had a sense of control. Not just grounded him. You humiliated him. In his own safe spot. Over your own unresolved crap. You didn't show him how to respect family. You showed him how to weaponize power when someone hurts you. YTA. And you lost more than a bedroom here. Comment 2. F it. You're not the bad guy here. Everyone's babying Cameron like he's 8. He's 15, smart enough to know what he's doing. Cameron knew your wife helped his brother. Knew she was trying. Knew it'd hurt her. And he did it anyway. No invite. Locked door. Nah, I'm good. Pure spite. Straight up emotional sabotage. And yeah, you blew up the room. Good. Because a 15-year-old who thinks he can disrespect someone under their roof and get a custom-designed man cave out of it needs a wake-up call. He wants to be a grown-up and make decisions. Then he can face grown-up consequences. Your ex and your wife need to hear this too. This isn't about punishing him for having a mom. It's about punishing him for being an arse. Honestly, I wish more parents had your backbone. You didn't hit him. You didn't scream. You made a point. If you're going to exclude people in a shared home, don't expect the benefits of that home. NTA. Hold your ground. Update. Well, things have escalated since my original post. People asked for context, so here's the unvarnished truth. The marriage to my ex ended because I cheated. Not with my current wife, but with someone else entirely, a woman who didn't want a life with me, but just wanted the perks for as long as it suited her. She walked away as soon as she'd gotten what she wanted. I've never hidden that from my sons. I told them when they were old enough to understand. Cameron was still young at the time and built a story in his head that I abandoned his mom for my current wife. That's not true, but in his eyes it doesn't matter. In his mind, I betrayed his mom and then tried to replace her. I also made it clear from the start. My current wife had nothing to do with my divorce. She met me well after everything was over. She's never been anything but decent to my sons. If Cameron wants to hate me, fine. But she doesn't deserve to be treated like a stranger in her own home. After my last post, things went off the rails fast. Cameron left that night. Took what he could carry and went to his mom's. He and his mom came back during the day while I was at work, emptied his room, and left it bare. No goodbye, no conversation. Just an empty room. Even his brother didn't get a chance to talk to him. He's effectively moved out. His mother sent me an email saying, Cameron won't be staying with you anymore except for holidays if he feels like it. That was it. Then came the legal threats. She claimed what I did pouring paint on the furniture amounted to destruction of property she had purchased for Cameron. She said she'd report me to the police for damages. I told her I'd cooperate, but would also file my own report for the damage Cameron did to my car. Yes, that happened. He sneaked back onto the property a few days later, keyed the side of my truck, and dented the hood with something heavy. I caught it on the security camera. His mom denied it at first until I sent her the clip. Once I made it clear I had video proof and would file a report, she backed off. No more threats about property damage, no police at my door. I didn't file on Cameron either. I'm angry, but he's still my son. I'm not going to hand him a criminal record at 15. But here's the kicker. My wife has left. She didn't storm out. There was no screaming match. She just sat me down 2 nights ago and said, I can't do this anymore. I'm tired of being the wedge between you and Cameron. I'm tired of being the reason for all these fights. She said she's going to her sister's for a while. She packed a bag and walked out. She told me she doesn't feel like a stepmom anymore, just an excuse. Said I've turned defending her into a war with my son, and she doesn't want to be in the middle of it. She's not wrong about that part. I've been furious at Cameron for years for shutting her out, and every time he did, I doubled down. I thought if I forced the issue hard enough, he'd break and start treating her with respect. Instead, I blew up his room, lost my son, and now my wife is gone too. The older boy is still here, but he barely speaks to me. He's not confrontational, but I can tell he's pulling away. He goes straight to his room after school. He said once, "I get why you're mad, but you've scared everyone." That stuck with me more than I want to admit. I don't scream, and I don't hit. But I do act into a teenager. That's apparently scarier. Cameron hasn't reached out. His mom sent a text saying, "Stop trying to contact him," after I sent a couple of messages asking to talk. I haven't heard from him since. My house feels like it's shrinking. One kid gone. Wife gone. The other kid is silent. All because I wanted a 15-year-old to show basic respect. Here's the thing. I don't regret the principle. I regret the fallout. I regret that it came to this point. But the principle? No. My wife didn't cheat on me. She didn't break up his home. She has been patient and kind for 6 years. Cameron has been cruel and deliberate in how he excludes her. I wanted him to understand that this house isn't just an extension of his mom's. It's a shared home with shared people who matter. He refused, and I snapped. People keep saying, "You destroyed his safe space." Maybe. But he's destroyed this home's peace for years. He's ignored, insulted, and stonewalled a woman who's done nothing but try. And the moment he brought his mom's furniture into this house and locked her out, that was the final disrespect. If it costs me my son to defend my wife, maybe that's what it costs. I didn't choose it lightly. I'm not pretending to be the victim here. I cheated years ago. I created the fracture. I know Cameron's anger started with me. But that doesn't give him a lifetime pass to spit on my wife. It doesn't give him the right to lock doors and act like she's a stranger. And it doesn't make me a monster for saying enough. I don't know what the next move is. Therapy. Legal mediation. Trying to apologize, even when I don't feel sorry for the action, just the result. All I know is I wanted my kids to respect my wife. That's it. I wanted one basic thing, and now I've lost almost everything trying to get it. Comments. Comment 1. Your problem isn't your son's attitude. It's your ego. You keep saying you just wanted him to respect your wife. But the truth is, you wanted to force him to perform a relationship he didn't want to have. Let's get real, you cheated. You blew up your marriage. It doesn't matter if your current wife had nothing to do with it. Your choices lit the match that burned your son's home down. You didn't just break trust with your ex, you broke it with your kids. Cameron was what, 9? He saw everything fall apart and had to watch you move on while he and his mom were probably still reeling. And instead of acknowledging that emotional wreckage, you doubled down and demanded loyalty to your new life. Cameron didn't lock your wife out because he's evil. He did it because he's been locking her out emotionally for 6 years. And you've been pretending that if you just tighten the rules and flex harder, he'll magically warm up. That's not how trauma works. That's not how betrayal works. You never rebuilt the bridge, you just tried to slap down speed limits and call it respect. You destroyed his room to make a point. You made your son feel like a trespasser in a house that was supposed to be half his. And now you're shocked that everyone's gone. Dude, you didn't lose everything for drawing a line. You lost everything because you never once looked at the damage you caused to begin with. Comment 2. Oh, you're not just the RC hole. You're the blueprint. You cheated on your wife, nuked your family, and then had the audacity to expect your son to welcome your clean new life like it was a Hallmark movie. You think just because the woman you cheated with isn't in the picture anymore, that makes you righteous. Bro, your whole second marriage is built on scorched earth, and you've been planting flags in the ashes like you're a victim of your own consequences. Let me say this slowly, so maybe it gets through that iron wall of pride. You didn't lose your son over furniture. You lost in the day you stopped being safe to love. Cameron watched you blow up his mother's world. Then you paraded your new family in front of him and demanded he pretend it was all normal. You tried to brute force forgiveness through discipline. You destroyed his space to send a message. And now you're surprised the message he heard was, "I don't care about your autonomy, only your obedience." You wanted respect? Try earning it. Try being accountable. Try sitting your son down and saying, "I F'd up your life, and I understand why you're angry." But now, you went full dictator, trashed his stuff. And now you're writing an emo journal entry from your sad, silent house, wondering why everyone walked out. Here's why. Genius. You don't listen, you punish. You don't connect. You control. You keep saying you just wanted him to respect your wife. What you really meant was, I want to erase the pain I caused by forcing my son to pretend it never happened. You are exactly why kids go no contact. You are Reddit's textbook YTA. Congratulations. You didn't just burn the bridge, you pissed on the ashes, and still expected your son to cross. Second story. My best friend's husband asked me to watch his wife. Now I don't know if I should tell my best friend or not. I apologize if the title is a little misleading. It's not as bad as it makes it seem, but still pretty terrible. So, my friend has an unreliable partner, who is now her husband. They've had problems regarding his insensitivity and unreliability. Basically, her husband doesn't want to do anything that inconveniences his comfort and fun. So if it means thinking about other people, namely her, and having to do something instead of, say, playing with his band or watching TV, he doesn't want to do it. Well, my friend is having surgery on Friday. A pretty serious surgery that will incapacitate her for about 8 weeks. I told her I would be there on the day of and hang out until she was out of surgery. It's going to be a long day, but I promised her I'd be there. Her husband is going to be taking her in and all that. She and I had a discussion over the weekend about his ability to step up to the plate and take care of her while she is recovering. She will need help with walking and managing her meds so she can stay ahead of the pain. I told her I did not trust him at all to be there for her, and that I will be texting him often to make sure he is doing his job. She was all, no, he's going to step up to the plate. I trust him. At first, she didn't and had planned to make meals for herself so he could heat them up for her and clean the house for him. Then yesterday she told me she wasn't going to do any of that, and she's going to trust he will take care of her. He just asked me if I would take care of her the day after surgery so he could go hang out with friends. The day after. The first day recovering, and he's already ready to bounce. I thought about it, fuming, and concluded that no, I would not do that for him. A. He promised her he would take care of her, and B. I don't want to set a precedent that he will just call on me when he wants to ditch her, because I can see that happening very easily. And C. If he told her now what he was planning, it would have caused a fight between them 2 days before her surgery. And she's already anxious about that. I didn't want to add to it. If this was week 2, and he needed a break, I totally get it, and would be over there. But this is day 1. Now, the question is, do I tell her about this? Not now, obviously, but when will she be well enough to receive it? Update. Turns out I didn't have to tell her. He told on himself. I just got a message from her about it. Let's see how this goes. Keep y'all updated. Another update. Well, he told her that he asked me to, as he put it, babysit her. She is upset, but mostly I think she is just tired and disappointed in him. I asked her if he told her to test the waters and see if he could just leave while she was sleeping. She said yes because he said, "You'll just be sleeping, right?" I asked her what she said to him, and she said nothing. And finally he worked it out himself that since it was her first day home, he should stay with her. I told her when she's better, she has decisions to make. She said in his mind, he thinks if he can get someone to babysit her and do the fun thing, then in his mind, it's a win-win. I told her he's a selfish prick. Comments. Commenter 1. Yes. Tell her, neutrally. As if it's not an issue. This is how I'd play it. Hey. Your husband let me know he was looking for help on day 2. And I'm sorry I'm not free. But if you are really desperate, you can call me after X time. You can do her a favor. After he's failed, he gets no favors. Consider being free that day when she calls Qley, because you know he's almost certainly going to bail on her anyway. Maybe over meal prep a bit, so you can leave a few things in her freezer, but only after he's failed to feed her. Let him fail first. Then help her. Never, ever cover for him in advance. Be, luckily able to help, when he doesn't perform. She has to feel his failure first. Unfortunately, nothing but that anxiety and suffering is going to teach her. OP, good idea. Letting him fail first, and he will. I am seriously wondering if he will find a way to leave her on Saturday. And his friend knows his wife is having surgery. Why would you ask if he could come out knowing that? What the hell? Commenter 2. Absolutely let her know that her husband didn't want to do even this little bit for her. She probably already knows, though. OP, she does know. I think she is hoping for the best. And yeah, she does make excuses for him, and will even say she is making excuses for him while doing it. I think in her mind she is thinking that surely he wouldn't ditch her so soon or wouldn't do it while she's recovering from something that requires a lot of help. I told her when she was making plans to make meals for herself that she really had to think long and hard about how much prep work she was doing for herself because she knows how unreliable and selfish he is. I am not entirely sure what made her change her mind about that. I think she was offended when I told her I had absolutely no faith in him at all to step up. And now here we are. Why did OP's friend marry that guy? I questioned her when she did based on the problems they were already having for this kind of behavior. I think she fell into the trap of marrying his potential and not who he really is. Commenter 3. I wouldn't tell her. She doesn't need the worry before surgery. Tell her husband no, you can't help on day one, and he'll have to manage himself and see what happens from there. Either he manages and things go well, or he doesn't and your friend finds out how important she is to her husband in the scheme of things. Honestly, this feels like a moment where the future of their relationship could go two ways. So I would try to stay out of it as much as possible. OP. She has talked about leaving him over the past several months since his selfishness is epic. And he never takes responsibility for his actions when he's called out on it. He'll pull the "I don't like your tone" card when she tries to talk to him and makes it about that. If I had a nickel for every time she's called me after an argument and asked, "Am I crazy?" because he gaslit her in some way, I definitely don't want to tell her now, not before surgery. Though I do wonder if he will find another way to go, maybe ask another friend of hers. He told me in the text he hadn't talked to her about it, that he was waiting to see what I'd said first. Does OP's friend and her husband have kids? OP. The sad thing is, he does have a child with his previous wife, and he has a terrible relationship with his kid because he never took an active interest in him. His kid is an adult now and wants nothing to do with him. Lol. No, she doesn't want kids, and he already has one from a previous marriage. Is it possible for the husband to get therapy? OP also, he refuses to get therapy. Update. Update on friend who had surgery and whose husband wanted to bail on her. Hello? The surgery went well, so I will start there. It was a long day, and she didn't get home until after midnight. She told me her husband was doing a great job when I checked in on her on Saturday. And when I checked in on Sunday, he was still holding strong. And then came Sunday evening. She sent me a message that his care was slipping, but not to message him about it. However, he is working from home right now, which was up in the air last week. Hopefully he will do that the rest of the week. I told her on Friday that if she asks me for something to come over, do something for her, etc., I will do it. But not if he asks. I will not bail him out. She agreed with me on that. He has a class on Wednesday evening that he teaches, so she asked me if I could come over while he's gone. I'll get even more intel then, I am sure. She did say he was pretty shaken on Saturday when he saw how weak she was and how difficult it is for her to move around. Hopefully he will stay the course, but who knows? Thank you to all who commented on my last post. I told her about it, and she got a kick out of it. I will say that he did try to float the idea to her on Wednesday night of going out, because she'd be sleeping anyway. She told him that I refused to babysit her because I felt it was inappropriate for him to bail on her after her surgery. He shrugged. She told him she agreed with me, and that he has a history of not being there when she needs him and bailing when things get hard. So this was an opportunity for him to step up to the plate. We shall see what happens. Comments. Commenter 1. She sent me a message that his care was slipping, but not to message him about it. However, he is working from home right now, which was up in the air last week. Hopefully he will do that the rest of the week. I hope friend doesn't cave under the notion. Well, he did more than I expected. OP same. Their entire relationship has been incredibly imbalanced. He can't even be bothered to remember her birthday, and as of this year be there for it. Commenter 2. She needs to get out of that relationship while she still can. It's not going to get any better. OP. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. Or ever. I've known her for over 10 years, and she has talked about leaving him for lesser infractions. And it still hasn't happened. I don't believe she will until she does. You know what I mean? Commenter 3. When he's constantly negotiating the least amount of effort that she will accept, it speaks volumes to his lack of quality. Commenter 4. It's so unfair. His refusal to care for her body when in such a vulnerable state is a refusal to care for her heart as well. Nobody's heart should be breaking when their body is in a fight to recover. Would he accept this from her if the tides were reversed? I think not. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.